Okay. We are looking at the TK20 system. I'm going to show you a couple of workflows in the TK20 system, just give you an introduction. We may also have time to give you a quick preview of the new version of TK20, since it's a very much enhanced interface and has custom reports as part of that. We're releasing a new feature called Instant Insight, where you can create custom reports through the user interface, but that we're like right between those releases. We're like literally like about a week off from that release, but I just can't quite fully demonstrate it just yet. But I can certainly send information. I'll just say it's like our current system, except just better. You know, it's just every workflow, a few clicks have been removed. It's just that much more intuitive. And we're continuing to enhance certain areas of the system, like the planning module, the assessment planning and strategic planning area will have, again, a refreshed look. I think it's like in summer, as well as additional reports and things like that. So we're adding some enhancements. And so right now we're looking at the current version. We're going to spend most of our time looking at that, and then I'll give you a preview to the new release that's coming up soon. And then see if we have any questions that I'm not willing to take. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so this is and so what we'll do is I'm going to just start off with a brief introduction, then we'll look at an example of course assessment workflows, then we can take a look at a little bit of the workflows in the planning area, like documenting outcomes and curriculum mapping and things like that, documenting assessment plans, linking them to like some of the course assessments that you've done in TK20. We'll look at a couple of example reports and then maybe take a quick look at the new release. Okay, pretty cool. Okay, this is a web-based system, so anybody that has valid credentials can access, and it's so here are the main tabs across the top of what's called our campus-wide comp system. There are different levels of the campus-wide system, and you're taking one that's kind of like an intermediate level, and so I'm going to note which of these main functionalities that you'll have access to. So that would include the courses tab for completing course assessments. Like you can use this for building rubrics and different types of evaluation forms and assessing students in the context of courses. Also, the planning tab would include assessment planning and strategic planning. As part of assessment planning, there's also a feature in there that's very helpful for things like gen ed, as well as for other kinds of things where you want to kind of look at validity and reliability. So it's called juried assessments, and it allows for random and blind scoring. And it allows you no muss, no fuss to bulk upload student artifacts into the system, or even to reassess something that had already been assessed in the context of a course, just because you're kind of taking it up to the program level. You're not really thinking about the course in that context, if that makes sense. Okay, so the planning area and juried assessments is part of that. You can also use the system in the version that you're going to get for course evaluations and surveys. So, students completing course evaluations as an indirect assessment. Surveys can be done for users and or non-users of TK20. You need to use that as a method of assessment as well. And then, let me see here, faculty qualifications, if you want to use that, you can. It's just faculty profiles and faculty portfolios and those sorts of things. And then accreditation management. You can use this for middle states as well as any of the discipline-specific accreditations. So there's no additional cost, and we would be putting in all of your accreditation templates into the system. Also, any relevant standards that you have for both discipline-specific as well as obviously regional standards, we would be keeping up with all of those. The other thing we do at the beginning as part of our configuration services is that like any of your forms and rubrics, you can just send them all over to us and we'll build them all out in the system for you. Save you a lot of grunt work on the upfront. We want to accelerate your time to value and not have you doing a bunch of these things. And you can continue to send them to us as you go along.
Now I have a question.
Sure.
I know you said no questions.
I know, I'm just kidding.
How about all of our outcomes?
The outcomes you're going to have to put in, but any of your any like accreditation standards, your accreditation templates, and then any of your forms, like a survey form, a course evaluation form, any of your evaluation forms will help you with your plan templates. We'll also put in your institutional hierarchy, like all the academic and non-academic areas that collect data, we'll put all that in. And then a lot of other things like your student and faculty course schedules, we'll bring those in from a data load from your student information system. Okay. So we'll arrange for that. On the student side, we can bring in a lot of custom demographics and things like that too. So a lot of those things. So the outcomes we'll have to put in, but it's pretty quick to put those in, and everything else we'll build out on a lot of those things. just to note that should you expand use of the system going forward, it's just very easy to do. We're activating additional bundled areas, and that would include things like portfolios, field experiences for clinical management, as well as being able to evaluate students in the context of clinical experiences. So that's another thing you could do if you move to a comp system going forward. Okay, so those are a couple other areas that aren't included yet, but you can easily turn them on later. There's also one called advisement that's basically being able to track students' progress through program requirements. So you can designate what those requirements are, you can set some business rules and sort of track your students from admission to graduation. All applications is also a part of that, like applications to field. So really being able to track students and making sure that they're successfully completing their requirements can be done in the system as well.
And just so you guys know, so Caitlin gave us a quote for like these having different tabs available. And there's like a bare bones one, then there's like kind of a bare bones but a little bit better. Then there's like one that's not bare bones that she's talking about now that we're probably gonna go with, and then there's the one that includes everything. And that would include like every single tab.
Exactly. So you're gonna have courses, surveys, course evaluations, planning, accreditation, management, faculty qualifications, administration. So it's most everything. I wanted to note this is also a role-based system. You may have more than one role in the system if you're like wearing your faculty hat one day and other days you might have some administrative things. So you can switch. But the idea is you can create any number of custom roles in TK20 so that any of these tabs or side menu items that go with each tab can be enabled or disabled. Really helps for usability. People are not seeing a bunch of buttons that don't matter in their role. So just for an example, like say I switch to an institutional planner, I might see this set of tabs and side menu items. If I switch to faculty, these are the simulated roles. And so you can create them in each one, you can create them completely on your own. They don't have to be like canned roles. You can create them and name them whatever you want. So this is just an example, okay? To facilitate communication as you're using the system, there's a messaging area here. So you can set up, user groups, you can send messages to roles, send messages to individuals. So as you're working through the system, you can send these right through and they can go to the email addresses that are also stored in the system. So it just saves a little bit of work, not having to go outside if you want to do something at the time that you're thinking about it. It's just my little sample message. And you can you can have your you can have documents go through here as well. Okay. Very easy to do. Pending tasks are front and center on the home page. So anything that somebody needs to do in TK20 would show up here. So maybe for a survey, or it could be like a data collection request that's associated with an assessment plan. It could be a juried assessment, a lot of different potential things. And so they can just click on it and it will take them directly to the area of the system where their task needs to be completed. In this case, it's just a quick survey form. A lot of these tasks also can go to external email addresses. So things like a survey or a course evaluation, you can just click on a link in an email and it will take you directly to the form. You can complete it on a mobile device, a phone, a tablet, etc. Okay. Any questions? Don't you dare. No.
So far.
Okay. You can use this news section area for posting announcements and training videos and things like that. I just usually use this area to talk about service. So just to note that you'll be very well supported. You're going to have an implementation project coordinator that will work with you to determine, okay, what do you want to do? When do you want to do it? What are your resources? Just to come up with a realistic project plan based on your needs and priorities, your resources, all those sorts of things. So it might be like one of the first things you implement is course assessment, and then as well as like using assessment planning within the planning module. So, and just getting things set up for particular groups of types of users. So you'd have an implementation project coordinator. You'll also have some feature specialists that you'll work with to get things up and running nice and quickly. We're going to do all that configuration work for you, and then we'll arrange with you on like a customized training plan, both online as well as we'll provide on-site training here at the college. And you can also send a couple of power users out to Austin, Texas. So for that, we also have our annual user conference in June. So
I
Austin,
saw.
Texas.
It's all booked up though. It's like full.
You can't possibly
Unless
be
that's
full.
maybe last year's. I
think it's probably last year's.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll check on that because we actually expanded our space this year because we're growing, so we actually moved to a new venue. So I don't think there should be full right now. Better not be.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, maybe, you know, maybe we'll have something in place, and this would be something to
I think
attend.
yeah, I think you probably could. I'll check on what the space looks like, because I think I think they're just sort of getting that piece together right now. I
Okay,
think
it
that's
might have
probably
been
from
last year.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do the training, support all users 24/7, so by email, so if you've got a burning assessment question in the middle of the night, feel free to contact us. And then 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. by phone, Monday to Friday, that's Eastern time. Okay, just wanted to show, any questions on this before, I'm gonna just show you this key area of the administration tab. So this is an area where you can build your forms and rubrics. There's also this thing called DBE Builder, which is very similar to the form builder and really allows the ability to add custom fields throughout the system. So the system's really customizable. You can do a lot of changes to the system through just the user interface. Form builder is here, and you can have some folks have some administrative privileges to build forms in this area. I think you can build them in the courses section too. But you can see there are all these different types of form contexts, like things like an assessment tool is like a rubric or other type of evaluation form. You can have survey forms and course evaluation forms. There's also something called an artifact template that might be like a structured response where you want a student to self-assess, or you want a student to do something like that. Assess their competencies or complete a survey in or some sort of form so that you can aggregate the results. Does that make sense? So.
Sorry for the distraction. It's not next door. There's nobody next door.
Somebody having a party?
They might be back in here.
There's 2 students there just
No, it
sitting
might-
quietly.
There's like something back here.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, so I'm just going to show you a quick example of an assessment tool. Again, these are the things that we'll build these out. We have things like, I'm just showing an example, but a common one also is like the AAC and U-value rubrics that you can use for general education. So we'd have those in there for you. But this is just an example of a rubric. Now, you don't have to use a rubric. It could be like, just points. It could be a Likert scale. The rubrics could also be very sophisticated with weighted scoring and rating scales and all sorts of things. So it's just up to you. One thing that our clients very commonly do is they'll tag like either an entire rubric or a rubric row or a form element with a standard or outcome, so that when you run a report, you can say, okay, these were all the standards that were addressed, and that's the associated performance. It's sort of threading things through, an academic program. We're not just looking at courses.
One
you're
single
looking at
course,
yeah, you're pulling everything together. Does that make sense, Eric?
Yeah, I think so. Keep going.
It's a common activity of basically saying, okay, we addressed this standard or outcome. Here's where we did it, and here was the performance. So it's just basically tagging it,
Yeah.
And so when you run a report, you can run a report by that outcome set or that standard set, and then you can see all the rubric scores that were threaded through that.
Like from course to course to course to course.
Yeah,
So,
because
well,
sometimes not everybody's, sometimes folks are using common rubrics for things across.
Like our gen eds.
But
Yeah.
not always, and so it's a way to do this without having to have everybody use the exact same rubric. It's not going to blend the scores, because that would be very bad. Because sometimes a 3 on a rubric is good and sometimes not, so, but at least it brings everything onto the same report.
So is this, in this function or this window, could that rubric row then be tied to a student learning outcome
Yes.
in a course outline? So if you pull up your course outline and you want to see, which learning outcomes you assessed last year, could you get to this data through that document, or would it be?
Well, any of our forms can be tagged with standards or outcomes, so you could, you could create another type of form that has that outline in there, so that you can tag those things. So that's another thing you can do. It's most often used in the context of student measurement, but we could
Okay.
do that. We could also, we'll include some custom reports as part of your license beyond what we do with ad hoc. So I don't know if that will require a custom, because it's all, it's just the same type of thing.
So
we
this
might
is more for
customize.
pulling data from multiple course assessments to do program review or department.
Yeah, but I can say that any of our forms, like everything in the form builder, no matter the context, can be tagged with a standard or outcome, so we can definitely support what you're looking for. We might need to just create a report for it, but it's not, it wouldn't be something that would be difficult. because everything is tagged this way.
No, okay.
And it's probably just an existing workflow that we can do. So, okay. All right, so now I'm going to show an example of what, for faculty, what it might look like to do course assessment, like an assessment of a student, okay? There are a couple ways we can go about this. You could do it directly inside the system, or depending on what version of Web Study you have, there's the potential of integrating with the learning management system. So I can show both examples. Now, I don't have a Web Study account, but it's through a standard protocol called LTI. It works in the exact same way, no matter what kind of LMS you have, as long as both the assessment vendor and the LMS have gone through the certification process. It's basically a protocol we use to talk to each other, okay? So I can show an example in another LMS system, and we just have to check on your version. If not, then you could do it directly inside TK20, okay? So we'll look at both of those examples, okay? So just to show, like, in the context of an LMS system, and we'll just look at, you guys want to just look at the faculty view?
Yeah.
Personally, I don't want to pretend to be a student again. I'm studying for one lifetime. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to log in as a faculty member. So through this protocol, it's called Learning Tools Interoperability, and this allows for single sign-on and gradebook integration, provided you're what's called 1.1 compliant. So you don't have to worry about it. Just like if Web Study's gone through that process, then it would allow for single sign-on. So you could log into your LMS as usual. There would be a place for a specialized assignment to be in here. So it's not like all your day-to-day assignments. It's particular ones that you decided are going to be a measure of student learning that are going to link to your assessment plan. Okay, so it's not all the day-to-day stuff. So here I'm in Blackboard. I'm in an LMS system. In this particular case, I'm navigating to my course assignments. It's just going to be like your normal. There's going to be a place to put this in. And I'll show a couple of example assignments. We'll look at a video assignment and we'll look at a document assignment. So different types of things that students can upload. They could upload a video. They could upload any type of document. They could, and they could also complete like a structured template that you have them fill out. That's like something that's built in our form. Okay. So when you click on that assignment, even though it's not obvious, we're actually in TK20 right now because TK20 shows up as a shell inside that system. Okay. And then there will be a place to push things back to your LMS gradebook. So you don't ever look like you're leaving, really, but everything's really on our servers, et cetera, and then it will allow then all our reporting capabilities to be available, as well as being able to use some of our sort of learning tools within your own LMS system. So I would just click on a student name. Yellow means they haven't been assessed yet. And so again, we're in TK20. And the student again can go into their LMS just as usual and submit their assignment. In this case, we're looking at an example video.
They're having a party over there.
It's just two people.
There were two people on that same wall, but there were two there.
And here we have, in TK20, any evaluation, see how I just don't get distracted? It's because I work from home. See,
Good.
I work from home, so like sometimes during my demos, my cat will like jump up on my laptop and just sit there and go to sleep. So I'm just like, nothing distracts me.
I wish.
My husband works from home too, so like him walking in and trying to distract me during my demonstrations, none of that works. So
Wow.
anyway, so this video is not usually so slow. I think it's just the Blackboard site's being a little slow.
A very, very fast internet?
But the idea is like a video will stream it. It'll usually be better than this. I think the site's just being a little slow. But okay, so you can go in and you can mark up your rubric. Sometimes you might have rubrics that have comments for each criteria, etc. And then you can also use the video annotation tool if you'd like to. So like if you want to stop and make a comment, you can do that. You know.
Just two guys sitting there.
I know.
Okay, so you can make comments on the video, then
Point,
students
but you
can.
need a haircut.
So I guess what are you assessing? The video itself?
Well,
Yeah,
The
so
idea is
this-
that the video would be the assignment?
Yes, so in
Okay.
this case, maybe we're using this to assess students' oral presentation skills, for example, in the
I see.
context of gen ed or in the context of, you know, if you have teaching simulations or nursing simulations, so anything like that. So you can
Uh-huh.
use this for assessing oral presentation skills, and with documents, you might be assessing written communication. So this is just an example where, you know, some of our functionality will work inside your LMS, or you can, you know, use it straight inside TK20. You can use these tools to not only assess students, but also help improve their learning, because this information then can show back up inside their LMS account and or inside, it'll also be inside TK20. So they can, you know, go back and they can play their video, and as they're going along, there will be these timed comments to help them improve their skills.
So for example, because you said this is more for assessment purposes, but it makes me think, as somebody who's learning the web study system to teach online, I have no idea how, like, written assignments and all that. I know there's grading rubrics that you can use for forum responses and all that, and I have yet to learn that part. Would this be something that would allow for the assessment of those types of assignments as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can use it for any type of assignment, video assignment, document assignment. Again, this could be directly done inside TK20, but if you want to do it inside the web study system, because, you know, again, we just have to make sure that you've got the
yeah, I'm
version
looking
that-
at it now, but I don't know what it means.
I think I saw it on the side.
I mean, we have like 3 different things here. Some of them say LTI v 1.0 compliant. Then,
Yeah, that's single sign-on.
Then one says 1.1 compliant, then one
That's
says
the grade book.
1.1.1 compliant.
Yeah, it says the 1.1 or anything above that would be single sign-on and gradebook integration. So that's what I'm showing in this context. So as long as they have that, then there should be a way for us
We're
to
good.
integrate.
But if we had like like let's say you're in web study and you finally, you know, you figure it out and you tell your students, okay, you have to submit an assignment in web study and I'm gonna
Mhm.
grade it, you can get that in here also and
Mhm.
assess that assignment through this, all at
Exactly.
in one shot.
Right.
Can you do them separately as well? So like, let's say there's a multi-part homework assignment that they have to do,
Mhm.
like 10 questions or whatever, for a chapter, but only 2 of them are embedded assessment questions. And this might be getting like too into the minutia, but would you be able to link like the same assignment in an LMS to 2 different grading rubrics, like one in TK20?
I think if you left the grading rubric in web study and you like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure because I don't know so much how web study works. I know that you could, you know, you could have multi-part assignments that are done in, you know, through TK20. It's called the course finder. You could then tag the parts of that, you know, that assignment that relate to a standard, and then report by that.
Okay.
You can tag
So
out
that's-
that way.
Yeah,
So
that
you
would
probably
work.
tag it that way, and still just have it as a TK20
And then anything that you
assignment.
do in TK20 is still in your LMS grade book. So you could grade the whole thing in TK20, it would end up in the LMS, and
Exactly.
then just what you want from that is tagged.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yes, exactly. Because you saw like at the bottom that there's a roster of student scores, and then there's a submit to grade book at the bottom here.
Mhm.
So you can see that some grades have been put in here, and then you just click. Come on. There we go. Submit to grade book. The other thing is, for an example, as a document, you can use our embedded document viewer for making notes. So again, this is another way that you can help with, you know, improving student learning on these types of assignments, because they'll show up. So it's, you know, you can do summative assessments, you can do formative assessments where you're, you know, helping them early on. So it's making the connection not just to the assessment that goes to the plan, but also connects to actual improvement of results. Being able to also make interventions with students that are struggling, because as faculty you would have your own reports as well that would be, that, you know, the system will know who you are, it will automatically know what your courses are, and so you can run reports. If you want to do that, you can be running real-time reports to look at how your students are doing, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
You can, so if a student has submitted a document, you can download it as, you know, as traditionally if you want to, but you could also use the embedded document viewer to make notes on the assignment. You can use a little pencil here, and then they can, you know, again, you can have them kind of look through those things later in their account. And here's just another example of a rubric that might be used. And then here at the bottom is where you can put in your grade.
So we could use the rubric up above
Mhm.
as the assessment, so you're getting a 3, a 2, a
Yeah.
3, and then the grade is totally not linked with that rubric.
Correct, yes,
That's nice.
yes.
Because I was just about to say, like, oh gosh, I hope people don't start putting the two together, the grades is the same as the assessment.
Right, no. The idea is that these two things are separate. It'll give you your total score and total mean, and then you can decide what your grade is based on, you know, those grading, your grading standards. So, and, also, just right here, you get a nice little assignment report.
The one thing I liked about this is the colors. I know this is very simple, but it's just so easy to click on your class and see who needs to be done and who doesn't.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's visually really easy to understand what's happening. And then there's a nice little stack bar chart that shows like, okay, on this, here are our rubric criteria, here are our benchmarks. So we can see the percentages of students that have fallen into each benchmark. And then below that, there's a grid. So here are again the criteria, the benchmarks. So you get two different views, and you can mouse over this to say, okay, here are the students that didn't meet standards, and you can go to their assessment if you want to look back at it. Okay. So that's what the workflow would look like in an LMS system. Did you want to see what it looks like directly inside TK20, or?
I wonder if maybe we should see a student view.
Sure.
What do you prefer, guys?
You want to see a student view real quick?
Sure.
In
So the
LMS?
students would be able to see their assessment in TK.
Well, so students can like submit their assignment.
Mhm.
Oh, okay,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, so I can show through the LMS. If it weren't done through the LMS, it would just show as a pending task on their homepage of TK20. If it is done in an LMS system, then let's go ahead and log in as a student. Okay?
What if we have faculty members who are not technologically savvy and don't want to use web study and want to maybe just have a paper assignment, right?
Mhm.
We have students submit a paper assignment, we want to use that. Is it easy enough just to have like a block rubric and just not have it linked to a student, but just like,
Yeah, you could do juried assessments if you wanted to, where, or you could, I mean, there are a number of different ways you could go about that. You could do the juried assessments and have them bulk upload a bunch of student papers and just fill out a rubric. You could also have them complete this as what's called course observations. That would be tied to a real student. Juried assessments wouldn't.
Okay.
Juried assessments, you could just, what would happen is you bulk upload a bunch of papers or whatever that come from elsewhere, students didn't submit, you just take them and you bulk upload them in, and then it just sort of creates dummy students, and I mean that in a fun way. And then it's basically random and blind, and then you can just complete it that way. Course observations means that it is linked to a student name in a course, but they haven't needed to
there's
submit
nothing
anything.
electronically submitted.
Right.
Okay, cool.
So, and then finally, you could send them yourself like an automated data collection request, okay?
Mhm.
As part of the planning process, basically where you could say, okay, a few times a year, I want faculty to fill out this form that has the student scores in there, like test scores or rubric scores, and that could go out automatically on a schedule if you wanted to. Then they could just complete a grid. So all of those things are possible. Okay, so we have a lot of flexibility in our workflows because a lot of different types of assessment needs and cultures and.
Yeah, because I mean, like, even us, we use our paper exams with the lab exams. So we wouldn't have like a submission for students.
Yeah, but these workflows are, you know, they're not too tough in terms of what faculty and students need to do. So if we went in for a student assignment, we go to our course, we click on an assignment. See if this is the right one I meant to click on. Yeah. So maybe we're looking at some instructions on the left-hand side. The right-hand side is where they can just add a file. Because in this case it's a file, like it could be a video, it'll say video or add, you know, complete an artifact template or whatever, in this case it's a file. So they just click on add file. And then they can search or drag and drop here.
Are you in TK 20 or Blackboard right now?
We're in TK 20.
Okay.
It just is never obvious that
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
So it just stays in the shell. They can search their computer or drag and drop the file, click add, and then all they have to do is click submit. So it's really a simple workflow.
That's easy.
You
So it's
can-
not like it's not another interface where students have to learn how to use.
It's so intuitive. It really, it's just, click add, click submit. And then, you can have standards display here if you want to. You can also have their the rubric display here, and then they would be able to see the results later. But it's nice to have the rubric displayed so they can see like what it needs to achieve competency on this particular key task, right? So that's so that can display here. So that's the student workflow. It's just really simple. Add, look at your instructions, add, submit.
Can we have more than one rubric on an assignment?
Yeah. You can have a lot of, that's why it says tools with the S, and it might not be a rubric, it could be a combination of things, because you can also mix rubrics with other form elements as well. If you want to mix a rubric with a Likert scale, with a past, no past distinction, or whatever you happen to want. So our forms have a lot of different contexts, like rubrics, Likert scales, drop downs, check boxes, tables, dates, integers, just straight numbers, scores, and so a lot of different things you can use, and you can mix them all together. And you could have like a lot of different rubrics in the same assessment tool if you wanted to as well. Other questions?
That was easy enough. I thought it was gonna be more stuff to go through. for
No,
the
it's,
students.
it's pretty easy. And if it's inside the TK20 system, then you can just click on a pending task. And so if we did, and again, with the faculty, it's also just very easy. Like they can just click on the courses section, or they can click on, so for because sometimes people just don't want to use the LMS for whatever
Well, yeah,
reason.
and that's what I was gonna ask you next. As a faculty member, I'm like, I probably have some assessment I have to look at. Maybe I should log into TK 20 and see, does it tell me if I have anything due or coming up?
Yeah, so it would show as you have pending tasks and courses, and it shows any other pending tasks. It's here, you have a juried assessment you need to do, so it shows you your pending tasks. And you can click on this and it would take you straight to it. You could also click on the courses section, and it takes you to another, this is another type of dashboard, if you want it. Some people prefer this one. So this one is basically,
Yeah, I like that.
it's a nice little dashboard. So this is another way that you could go about doing your scoring. So instead of like that list view that we saw previously, here are the ones that have been assessed already. Here are the ones that are pending assessment. You can just click on their names, and then here are the ones that didn't submit their work. So this is just another way of viewing it. So folks can do this in either context, but if they want to, do the integration with the gradebook, they need to do it in the LMS system. And just like the previous one, you get some reports that go with this. Like you can just click on this, and then there are additional reports that are across your courses. Like this is just a quick assignment report. Is that clear? So this is similar to what we were looking at previously.
So it looks just the same, because you
Mhm.
were in TK 20 even though you went through Blackboard.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And it would look just the same in, as long as the integration is there, it would look just the same in web study. Faculty may also have then if you give them, or you can give parts of the reports, like reports that are just meant for faculty. So I don't have the report tab on in faculty, but just to give you, there are different types of course reports as well as course evaluation reports and things like that that faculty can run. So here in the reports area, see here's one for faculty. So like a faculty would be able to see their courses and their course sections, and they can run reports across their different courses and course sections that they're teaching. It's the same. It looks the same as the administrator report. It just happens to show their own
Specifically for your
courses.
courses.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And so they could be looking at a particular assessment tool. And then you can look at one or more terms, and then you can look at courses that are being taught. And then it's my boss, but no, download. You gotta look at my calendar. Okay. wanna see like, so you can look at, Dina? She's lovely, she really is.
Not
Anyway, yeah, not now. I'm just gonna text her.
And I guess that's the crazy thing with Skype is
It
that
never really
you
closed.
can't turn it off.
Yes,
I
you
know.
can, you can log off.
I know.
Yeah.
She's logged off.
Oh.
And you can make it so it doesn't automatically log on.
I know, I
Okay.
should have, I still need
I
to
have to
figure
do
that
that.
out. I don't even know how to turn it off. I know how to turn it to do not disturb, but I forgot to,
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm just texting her to tell her to stop pinging me. She's wonderful. She just, it's my fault. I didn't put on the do not disturb. Okay. Okay, so here, here when you're setting these, you can set for more than one course section, you can set for more than one term, you could be adding additional filters, like program, major, minor, customized demographics. With our ad hoc reporting, you could add any number of filters, like student's favorite color, like a cohort, it could be anything, because in our database extenders, you can add any number of custom fields for user detail, and you can filter by all these different creative, interesting ways. You can also, in our ad hoc reporting, like look at particular parts of a form, or say, I want to look at everybody that did not meet standard on this form. So it's really, really cool. So faculty members can filter in different ways, administrators can filter in different ways, etc. And if you're using common rubrics across lots of different courses and course sections, you could literally be running reports across the whole institution to say, okay, this is how across the board students did on written communications. You could look at an institutional level, you could filter by programs, and I mean really middle states want to know the
Yeah,
program
we can
level
look at like
results.
how did the entire student body do on information literacy this year?
Yeah.
Because we would have had everything tagged. that
Right,
rubric.
exactly. And often, even though often like you may be like looking at something in the context of a course assessment, it's not really about the course. It's like aggregating across courses to understand like how things are going, how things are doing at the academic program level, right? 'Cause that seems to be where the level of granularity that like people want to look at, right?
Mhm.
So this is just an example. So in addition to we saw previously an example of an assignment report that had that like sort of stacked bar chart view.
Mhm.
We can set the view to look like that as well, but I just wanted to show you a different example where you can look at each rubric criterion independently, and you can look with pie charts and bar charts, and you can also drill down into your row by row student results if you want to look at that to help make interventions with students that are struggling to achieve particular competencies. Does that make sense to you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then with all of this, this information can be feeding back into the assessment planning activities that you're doing. So I'll just note that when you do this, you can be linking these results directly to your plans. So
Like big plans, like campus-wide plans.
yeah, so like the entire academic program plan, where you basically say, okay, how am I going to measure student learning? Okay, and I know we're running a little bit short of time, but I'll just say, I think we're good till 2:20, but in the outcomes and goals area, you could be going through and documenting those outcomes and goals, and then, the assignments, the course assessments is where you're actually measuring those. And so when you're developing your plan, just to give you a quick example, you might say, okay, here's the outcome, here's how I'm going to measure it over like a particular period of time. So maybe like in a particular cycle, 2013, 2014, we're in 2016 now. Just keeps going on. We say, okay, how are we going to measure it? And then, what was the result? So the results, like the things you're doing directly inside TK20 can link straight to your plan. Like you can get a grid that just links straight because you basically said, this is what my measure is going to be, and then it just links to that assessment. You can also, if you're doing things like surveys and things like that, you can be linking this as a measure of that outcome. So here's what I wanted my students to know and be able to do, in this academic program. I've decided how I'm going to measure it. Maybe there was a test, maybe there was an assignment, maybe there was a survey, and here are my results. Okay, did it meet my benchmark? you can designate that, like meet, did not meet, exceeded, or whatever. You can designate that in the system. If it didn't, then what are we gonna do about it? You know, so all of this sort of ties into that bigger picture process. And so this is the area where you would be going into documenting what those outcomes are. I'm just showing you like an example on the dashboard, like what it would look like. But basically, you would be going in, putting in some narrative. It would link to your assessment results, and then and that's kind of how that process works. The other thing you might be doing in here is creating curriculum maps. But that's pretty much what you would be doing in this area.
So to take the place of our little Word documents that we have all over the place.
Yeah, and I think it makes it easier to like, you know, share work, understand, just kind of share ideas about how things are being used, and really tie it to like being able to improve student learning over time. Like if you're seeing that, you know, over a period of time that you're not meeting certain things in your plan, then okay, what do we need to do? Do we need to add, you know, another prerequisite? Do we need to, you know, switch the order of our courses, etc. The other thing is in the curriculum mapping area, when you develop your curriculum maps, you can also associate that with a feedback form that can go to the faculty that are teaching the courses, so that as you're looking to make changes or improvements to the curriculum, faculty can potentially you know, provide some feedback, and that can be aggregated to kind of help, like everybody has some input in making sure that the curriculum is helping students achieve what you want them to be able to do when they graduate. So, by the way, creating the curriculum maps is really easy because you can't really create a curriculum map without creating outcomes. It's just, there would be no way to do it. But all the courses will be loaded in from the student information system, so you don't have to like type them in or anything. You just select your outcome set. You put in maybe part of your course prefix, and then you can just look up and just check off which ones you want to include, and then you're just choosing like from a drop down menu for filling out the map. So it might look something like this. Like maybe here we have in Gen Ed, here we have the outcomes. Here we have the courses. Again, these would have been selected from whatever was loaded from your student information system. This is showing the simple alignments. But then you can also have the detailed map that's showing like where and to what degree students are exposed to these outcomes. And you can customize like the names of these things. Like you might have things like a level and an emphasis. You can customize those too, like introduced, practiced, reinforced, assessed. It just means that, okay, when you go through your curriculum, they're not just introduced to an outcome and that's it.
Yeah.
And they just never see it again. And so you know that you can see the gaps, and you know the gaps are deliberate. So it just helps you kind of structure that visually. Does that make sense to you guys? And then you can associate this, if desired, doesn't have to be, but if helpful, you can associate this with a form that goes to the faculty that are actually associated with those courses, and then you can aggregate the results to help like really get a lot of good feedback for making changes over time.
Now let me ask you a question about training for faculty. How long does it usually take before we can start to learn this and use it?
We've had people be able to use these in, you know, just around a semester, where basically the training is customized. So we would train as we implement, you know, so here's what happens is we start off by working with like key personnel on training. We use a train the trainer model. And then for the on-site training, oftentimes we're doing like a team taught training where we would collaborate with, again, key personnel on training the faculty together based on a customized training plan, like that we work on with you. You decide what's going to be most effective, and we structure around that. It would be like a full day. You can purchase additional training, but usually a full day is fine. And we strongly advise the best practice doing just-in-time training, like do it close to when they're actually going to use the system. So like if you're going to implement it fall, then do it like maybe late summer, or you know, just right close to when it's going to be used. It's important to have somebody local on campus that knows how to, you know, sort of takes ownership and can provide local support. We do support all users, so if somebody does have like a technical question, they can contact us. By phone or by email, etc. I personally like the email support because then I have a record of the response. But yeah, we provide very detailed training. So usually what's happening at the beginning is those key faculty we're working on online training because we're just implementing the system in partnership with those key personnel. And then the on-site training is better to do just a little bit later when sort of the broader user community is gonna use the system. Does that make sense? Okay. And sometimes we're only training on-site key personnel. That's really up to you. Like, and sometimes we're training cooperating teachers. I mean, it can be like a broad training, or it can be more of a train the trainer kind of thing throughout. We work with a lot of campus-wide, a lot of two-year colleges, so we can really advise on best practices and help work out what plan is going to be most appropriate.
So, Marianne, are you envisioning most professors getting like kind of bare bones training just so that they can
Just about.
properly input their data,
Yeah.
but then there would be sort of a smaller group of administrators that know how to generate reports and do all the curriculum.
Yeah, and I don't think I think there's definitely an interest, I think it's cool to be able to generate reports for our courses and see that, but I don't think we all need to know how to do a lot of the reporting unless you have a real interest for it.
Right, and it may be sometimes with faculty that instead, like, some of them, you want to have them be able to do the planned data entry, but maybe just key faculty that are actually doing the data entry. So it may be that you're just showing faculty how to complete a data collection request, which is basically, it's a link they get in the email. They click on the link and they type in the boxes and check things off and things like that. It's just not something that requires an enormous amount of training. And the thing is that the look of the forms, the look of the evaluations are consistent throughout the system. So if they know how to evaluate in one place, student artifacts always on the left, rubrics always on the right. So it's, if you could see, like, in the context of the LMS, I don't think it's something that's going to be a big stumbling block for folks to figure out how to, like, complete an evaluation in TK20. I don't think so. Most of the time I've heard that the workflow is really pretty nice. So I can envision that the things that they may be doing is, completing those course assessments, maybe doing some data collection request forms, which is basically a survey. It's basically just a survey that links to a plan. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You might have them fill out grids of scores in some cases, but it's not going to be something that's going to be like this monumental task of having to know the entire TK20 system. Not at all. We also often have like early adopters on certain things, so you might have like certain groups that would use the system first, just to, the Mavericks like use it, and that's oftentimes the folks that have specialized accreditations. They start off and be the first wave of users. Sometimes we do that too. I hope this is helpful. Do you have any other questions about anything else you wanted to see? Because we have the ability to do the course evals and surveys and things like that, but I think we've talked about that
Yeah,
previously.
and I
so.
think, this is what I wanted us to really see, is how we can really use it in our courses.
Okay, great. Well, any questions? Have you guys- All right. Well, let me know if there's anything else that
I will.
comes up, and we can go from there. So I'm going to.
Thank you.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Thank you so much for inviting me back.
Thanks for recording us.
Pleasure.